off the bat, I'm really happy to introduce Kunal Gupta, who some of you I know have met before, the founder and chair of Impact Entrepreneurship Group on campus here, and also a nationwide organization. Started in 2003? 2004.
It's on there.
And Kunal graduated in software engineering just this past May. And so that's, what, 8 months ago. And already with his company, Polar Mobile, we've switched offices about 3 times. We're up to over 20 employees. And just doing some really great things that I know Kunal's going to talk about. So without further ado, here's Kunal Gupta.
Thank you. Thanks, Sean. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah? Is the mic on, or is it? Okay. Let me know if my voice starts to die off. So I'm really excited to see so many people here on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. How many of you guys got more than 5 hours of sleep last night? Just one. Few. How many people got 2 hours of sleep last night? A few. So thanks very much for coming out on a Saturday morning. I've got my BlackBerry in my hand. It's going to be in my hand. I'm not checking email or doing work. I'm actually reading notes for the speech that I wrote. And I'm a big BlackBerry geek. How many people here have a cell phone? How many people here have a smartphone? Okay, what type of smartphones? What do you guys have?
BlackBerry.
We're not going to be too hard on you for that. Don't worry. And so a few things I want to share with you today. I want to share with you some of the experiences in starting Polar, a company that we started just over a year ago here at Waterloo. And I want to share with you what we've learned in the mistakes, the ups and the downs, and also want to get a sense of what you guys want to learn about. So a year ago, 8 months ago, I was here at Waterloo studying software engineering. I'm originally from Ottawa. Anybody from Ottawa here? Which high schools did you guys go to? Lisgar? Colonel By.
I'm in
Gatineau. Close. I went to Gloucester, so you're arch rivals. So going to high school at Gloucester, one of Ottawa's largest schools, very involved with extracurriculars and students' council. In my last year, I took a computer science course. In high school, you guys know, it's, looking back at high school, it's relatively easy compared to Waterloo, and extremely easy compared to Waterloo. In high school, I got a lot of help from classmates as I would, do assignments and do work. I was very involved with students' council, so I didn't have too much time to finish my assignments, so I got a lot of help. In computer science, I had some great friends, which means my assignments were really, really good, and I got really good marks. And really, my computer science prof said to me, you got really good marks, you should go to Waterloo. And I said, okay, why Waterloo? And he was talking about the software engineering program, so he really convinced me to go to Waterloo, wrote me a great recommendation, helped me get into the school. I had really good scholarships at other schools in Ottawa and Carleton. Waterloo didn't give me a penny, but I still ended up here somehow. I know you guys can relate to that. My first term at Waterloo, I quickly realized that software engineering is fun, it's challenging, but I'm not really good at it. And I realized that there's a lot of people around me who are really smart and really, really good at it. People that I respected and people that I admired. I'm like, you can be really good at something that's pretty challenging in my eyes. So very quickly I realized I'm not going to be able to be the best at software engineering, at writing code. So I need to find something for me that I want to be the best at. Looking back at high school experiences, what I realized, what it was that I wanted to be the best at was in terms of meeting people, learning, and promoting the idea of leadership. So it all started with the idea of running a conference. So this is how Impact started. Put together a small team. This is my first year of university at Waterloo, with the goal of promoting entrepreneurship to young people. Hosted a conference in 2004 for about 150 students here in Waterloo. And long story short, throughout university, I stuck with Impact in growing an organization from just a few people to over 100 student volunteers, which is now Canada's largest student entrepreneurship group. So I was heavily involved with Impact for 4 years of my life at Waterloo, and that really taught me a lot. So I guess what you guys are doing through Velocity in these 4 months, my velocity was Impact. except it was 4 years. And I really invested a lot into it. I want to share with you kind of what I invested into it and then really how that's helped me with Polar and what I'm doing today. So a bit about Polar and kind of how we started Polar. I'll start with the pretty version. So last summer, so summer 2007, July, August 2007, 8 months before graduation, realized I didn't really want to work for somebody after graduating. Realized my parents weren't going to let me not have a job and just graduate school and kind of be on my own. So I realized I need to make myself a job. It was that simple. Put together some people I met through Impact, put together a team, started coming up with ideas, and an idea that we came up with that we seemed to like was the idea of publishing content to your BlackBerry. This is primarily used to make phone calls, to write text messages, to check email, and that's it. Everything else is way down there in terms of the usage of a BlackBerry. Living in BlackBerry's backyard, which all of us are doing for so many years, at least for me, I fell in love with the device, fell in love with the potential of this. How many people here have worked at RIM or BlackBerry? A few of you. So you guys know how addictive this device is. So really we started out with the goal is how do we make this BlackBerry even more addictive? How do we play on that fact? And the concept was pretty simple. It was publishing a magazine to a phone. So we looked at the media industry, newspapers and magazines, how everybody who had a newspaper or magazine created a website 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago. And pretty simple to see, okay, these guys are going to want to be on mobile devices as well. The trend is going in that direction. Realize that nobody's doing anything really exciting in terms of publishing a magazine or newspaper to your phone. So we came up with an innovative way to do that. And that way was downloading an application to your phone that allows you to read a magazine for free. We've done it in a very slick way, that it's very easy to read, there's no wait time, there's no load time, and then we serve ads against that, and that's how we make money. So kind of what I just described, that took like 6 months to figure out in terms of how we're going to make money, what the concept is, why would people use it, how it's different than what's out there. And figuring that out, we started talking to people through our networks, through people we had met, and we went to go see our first customer, Canadian Business. So from the first meeting to the time we actually closed them as a customer, it took about 3 months. When I walked into that first meeting, I thought they were going to say yes on the spot. They said the complete opposite. They said, we'll get back to you. Which, in sales speak means a no. And then I was fairly persistent, talked to other people, and kept going at it. And they liked the concept, but they weren't really motivated to move forward. And I kept asking myself, okay, why aren't they motivated to move forward? And then I realized in terms of how we were positioning it and pitching it to them. So we pitched in a way that this is going to make you money. And that's when they said, yes, let's do it. And this is going to make you look great on mobile. Yes, let's do this. You're going to be the first one to do this in the world. Let's do it. So that was our first customer, Canadian Business, Canada's largest business magazine. Shortly after that, we got Maclean's magazine as a customer. And I still remember the day, and this was November 2007, when I got the phone call saying Maclean's wants to do it as well. I was jumping up and down, and I was in fourth year University of Waterloo, graduating 6 months later, and we got 2 customers. And by the way, we didn't have the product really built, it was just the concept, it was just an idea. We had a prototype that looked okay. Looking back, it looks terrible. At the time, we thought it was great. And that's what matters. At the time, we thought it was great, and we were able to sell it. So from the time that it was November 2007, the time that we closed them as customers and said, yes, let's do it, we're like, when do you want to launch? And they're like, hey, let's launch in January. So January 24th was our launch date, January 24th last year. So it's even less than a year ago. It's funny looking back. Less than a year ago, we launched them. The 2.5 months leading up to January 24th were probably the most stressful weeks of my life to this date. And taking an idea that we had sold and got buy-in for, and actually making it a reality and launching it. We launched Canadian Business and Maclean's. Within a few months, we hit 10,000 users, which was their goal for the entire year, 2008. So they were very happy, and then we got them to pay us more money. And in doing that, we started to get calls from their competitors, we started to get calls from other magazines and newspapers, and we started to grow. So April 2008, we graduated. At that point, the team was myself and 5 other Waterloo guys. A CS grad, an economics grad, and the others were engineering grads. And we moved to Toronto. On May 1st, we decided to share a space with some people that we knew in Toronto and downtown. And there were 6 of us, and we started the company full time. So May 1st, 2008 was our first full-time day. I still remember it. It was a great day. It was so exciting. And then we brought on a co-op, and then we started hiring more people. And then by July, we were 9 people from 6. And then we raised funding. We got some angel investors to believe in us and give us funding. And then by September, we were at 15 people. So this was 4 months into it. Then we brought on co-ops. 2 of the co-ops were Neil and Ashok. Josh, I don't see him here, right? Not surprised. Josh and I was coming late to work. So we hired 4 co-ops over the fall, and we were 20 people in December last year. So that was kind of the first 8 months and how we've grown. In terms of customers, about 50 customers. We're developing on the BlackBerry, developing on the iPhone, developing mobile websites. We've got Windows mobile products as well. Hitting different verticals: sports, finance, news, entertainment. Working in Canada. We have customers in the US. We have customers in the UK as well. And in a big nutshell, that's Polar in the last 8 months, really, and how we started. So that's kind of the pretty version. That's how we've ended up. The real version, and what this actually means and what it took to get to where we are today, it's been tough. It's been hard. It's a lot of work. But the last 8 months makes 5 years at Waterloo feel like nothing. Like just how we drew the analogy that high school is nothing compared to what you guys are going through now. Waterloo feels like it was nothing compared to now. It's been tough. It is tough. It's tough to go continuously without sleeping very much. It's tough to be stressed out about money, about the team, about customers. It's tough to run a software company, and software is prone to having bugs and defects and issues. And it's tough when you're on a short time frame and you want to achieve a whole lot. But it's also exciting, and that's what's allowed us to really grow and prosper. So the real version of Polar, what has it taken in the last 8 months? There's been ups, and that's what I just described. There's also been lots of downs. There's lots of lessons learned, tons. Everything from us taking on customers that were a big headache, and when we realized that small customers who aren't sophisticated take a lot out of you, and big customers who are sophisticated take more time, but they know what they're doing and they're easier to work with. Everything from growing too fast. We grew the team very fast, from 6 people to 20 people in 8 months. Spending a lot of money. There's a lot of ways that we spent money that we probably shouldn't have. Everything from 20 people in the office probably had about 40 phones, right? 40 cell phones, to trips to New York every week to see customers, to a world tour that we eventually canceled right before we realized we didn't need to do that, to going to trade shows and paying thousands of dollars to exhibit. In doing this, we grew really, really fast, but in a lot of ways, we ended up hurting ourselves too. Not hurting ourselves that so bad that it's killing the business, hurting ourselves in a good way that we've learned from it. But looking back, the picture is not all rosy. But where we are today is a good position, but it's taken a lot to get here. So one of the topics that I want to start with is talking about mistakes. So who here has ever made a mistake? Okay. Who here has made a mistake this year? Okay, this is good. I didn't expect this many hands. So the first step of making a mistake is being able to admit that you've made a mistake. That's a hard pill to swallow when you're running a company or a new venture and leading a team, is to admit to yourself, to admit to the team that you've made a mistake. But it's absolutely necessary. Over the holidays, I actually made a list of our top 12 mistakes for the company for the year. And I shared it with the management team, which is myself and 2 other people. And we spent hours and hours just talking about our mistakes, just talking about what we've learned. A few days ago, I sat down with our investors and angels, and we reflected on 2008, and I shared with them our learnings. I didn't call them mistakes, I called them learnings. I didn't want to scare them off. And they, well, what they said, they laughed a little bit, and they started saying, this is all stuff that we hinted at, that we told you, but we're not surprised. You needed to do this. You needed to learn it yourself. And they were like, now that you've learned it, okay, just don't make it again. Let's move on and do things properly. So the biggest learning that I had from the mistakes that we made last year as a company was, and kind of the biggest mistake that I've made, was not appreciating the value of making mistakes. And for me personally, being scared to make mistakes. As an entrepreneur, as a leader, it's very easy to get stuck in the mindset where you need to always be perfect. You need to always be at the top. People are looking up to you, which is the case, and those things are important. But you need to make sure you're learning. And that way the team is benefiting from your learnings versus making mistakes and taking the team down a path which isn't good for anybody. So the biggest mistake that I made is not recognizing the value of making mistakes. And that's probably the biggest message I'd like to give all of you today, is there's a tremendous value in making mistakes. So I'm not going to stand here and tell you what mistakes not to make. I want to tell you what mistakes you should go make. And these are all mistakes that I made, and these are mistakes that you should make. Make them this year, make them next year, make them after you graduate. Make them within a year after graduation, if you really want to do this and you want to take it seriously. To grow too fast, just grow unbelievably fast. You're going to learn a whole lot from it. Spend a lot of money. Don't spend more money than you have, and don't spend all of your money, but spend a lot of money. And then you'll feel it. You're like, wow, how did I spend that much money? And spread yourself too thin. And spread yourself too thin in the way that you're trying so many different things that you can't tell what's working and not working anymore. Because then you're really invested into it. And when you take a step back, you're going to realize, wait a second, that's not working, but that's working really well. Let's focus on that. That's the biggest message I can give you is go make mistakes and fall. And fail quick, fail fast. That's what a lot of people say. That's something that we did a lot of last year. And reflecting back on the mistakes is so valuable. So I can't tell you what mistakes not to make, except to just go make mistakes. That brings me to my next point in terms of focusing. I'm still trying to learn how to do this. I think Neil and Josh can attest to this. And that at Polar in the last 4 months, probably every week or every 2 weeks, I'd say to the whole team, okay, everybody get together. I'd pull, from what everyone's doing, just get them all into a room and say, okay, here's what we're going to do now. And our focus wasn't very clear. I'll say it because these guys might be shy to say it, but every 10 days or every 2 weeks, we kept changing the focus.
We were very adaptable.
We kept focusing on different things and kept chasing different opportunities. But as a result, we realized we were spending so much time supporting and on maintenance and keeping everything up and running that we had no time to pursue new opportunities and the real opportunities that were going to create value and revenue for the company. So I'm still learning how to do this. I know it's important. That's about all I can tell you on focus, though, because I'm still learning how to do this, but it is important. That's what I've recognized. Next, I want to talk about the idea of taking risk. So how many people here feel that coming to Velocity is taking a risk? Okay. Coming to Velocity is a huge risk, guys. It's a huge risk, and here's why. If you really want to benefit from the next 4 months, the way that I benefited from my Velocity, i.e. impact over 4 years, was by investing yourself into something completely, 110%. And you're not the one who decides and measures if you've invested yourself into something 110%. You're not the judge of that. The people around you are. And here's how you know if you've passed or not. If your parents or your brothers or sisters or your girlfriends or boyfriends or your friends or your classmates think you've lost your mind, or think you're weird, or asking you, what are you doing with all your time? Or why are you wasting your time in that thing called Velocity or in that project? That's a sign of success. That's a sign that you're pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. That's a sign that you're really investing yourself into something. If the people around you don't think you're crazy, then you haven't invested yourself into something. You want to invest yourself into something so much that people around you, and it might sound a little scary, but that you alienate in some ways people around you, and it will happen. It happened to me. But that was a sign that I was really focused and really interested and passionate about something. And only with that interest and passion do you have a chance to make it successful. Like, it is really, really hard to take something from an idea and make it a reality. So what you need as a foundation for yourself is a complete investment into it. And a good measure is, what do the people around you have to say when you're not around? And if it's some of the things that I mentioned, then I think that's actually a good thing. You may not agree with me today, but I think most of you, after it happens, you will agree. And I hope it does happen. I hope it does happen. I hope that people around you do think you're weird. Because then you're on the right track. So don't be scared of being different. Don't be scared of going away from the path. The fact that you guys are here in Velocity is a step in the right direction. It's not enough, though. You need to do more. And people are going to ask you, what is Velocity, and what are you learning, and what are you getting out of it? It's very easy to get caught up in the short term in terms of, like, what am I getting tomorrow or the day after or the next month? The way that I would see it, the way that you should see it, is it's an investment in yourself for the long term. And that's what Impact was for me. And getting a little more tactical now, so how do you invest in yourself? Something that's very important at this age, and something that you should definitely take advantage of, is networking. I know you've heard it a lot, and a lot of people talk about it. How many people here feel confident that they can go and network and meet people and get to know people? So I guess, Sean, one of your goals is by the end of this term, right, for every hand to be up. Networking is extremely, extremely valuable. I don't think I have to sell you on that fact. My quick tips on how to network, and I've networked a lot at Waterloo in 5 years here. For me, it was primarily through Impact. So my first piece of advice is find a vehicle to network through. Could be Velocity, you've already got it. Could be your co-op terms, could be an extracurricular, could be a sport. Find that vehicle, and that you're going to use that vehicle to network. And what that means is, when you meet with people, that's what you're going to talk about first. When you meet a stranger, you want to have something to say, something that you're passionate about, but something that you're proud about. It doesn't have to be a huge accomplishment, or it doesn't have to be talking about how great you are. Some of you might be great, some of you might not be great. It doesn't matter. Networking is about meeting people. Networking is about making contacts. Networking is about learning from others. And that's the goal. So one of our past speakers for Impact, Michael Hughes, said several times, and really drilled into me, the idea of networking without a purpose. This is a really hard concept to do. I'm still learning how to do it. But the idea of networking without a purpose is exactly what it sounds like. When you meet with somebody, your goal is not to get something out of it. If your goal is to get something out of it, that means you've got a purpose, which all of a sudden, it hurts your networking abilities. If you're able to network without a purpose, just for the joy of meeting people, getting to know them, sharing and learning, you'll find that people are more amenable, and people are going to like you more. People are more open to you, and you never know what can come out of that. Through that networking without a process is how I met my founding team. It's how I met the angel investors who are funding us up until this day. It's how I met our first customers in the US, some big customers in Canada. It's through the concept of networking without a purpose. I do a lot of networking with a purpose. Don't get me wrong. But networking without a purpose is something that you definitely need to know how to do. As your time is limited here at Waterloo. You've got a few years left here. And you really want to leverage that and make use of that to meet as many people as you can, but also keep in touch with them and have them remember you and value you. So networking is a big piece of it. I'd like to ask Neil and Josh, I'm going to put these guys on the spot just because I can, to comment on the top one or two things that you learned and that you liked about Polar as a startup environment.
Probably the first thing that I learned most is that if you're doing a startup, you need a great idea, you need to be really talented, And most of the time, you're going to be doing really boring work that requires no talent whatsoever. So I mean, it's easy to come up with a great idea, but to turn it into reality, there's going to be a whole ton of just sifting through sand, staying 16 hours a day or more at the office, just to fix tiny bugs, to move pixels around, to get it to look good. Because that's going to be what separates you from the competition. So that's the first thing. Like, don't go in expecting that you're going to be working on really challenging problems the entire time. There's a lot of grunt, and that's why not everyone does it, because they can't take the grunt. So be sure you can do that. The second thing I'd say is you can always make a difference no matter where you are. So, like, I came in just as a co-op student. It was already a fairly large company, 20 people. I've been in some larger companies, but the team I was actually working in was much smaller, maybe less than 10. So it already felt like I was in a larger, much larger environment than I expected. But you can really, really make a difference, both in a positive way and a negative way. So on the good side, within a few weeks of being there, I had developed this for the street.com, like mobile applications, a portfolio, custom portfolio and stock trackers that we could add on to the news aspect of our magazine. That was really one of the things that brought us apart from being just an RSS reader to being a full-fledged application. So that was something really cool I was able to do at the start. And on the negative side, the demo we sent to the street.com was full of bugs that they made, full of these like half-complete features that I'd forgotten to finish. So and that's one of the very small mistakes we made. I can't emphasize that enough. Like, Kunal doesn't go into specifics, and I guess I won't either. But there were so many things we did wrong. Like, it was ridiculous. How many mistakes we made. And in the end, it doesn't matter as long as you keep going. Because if you're looking at working with someone that's never made a mistake, that's when I would be worried, right? If they're just a clean slate, you don't know what to expect. I would much rather be in a team or invest in someone that has made tons of mistakes, because then I know they can bounce back and learn from it, and I know what they do when they messed up.
Yeah, and yeah, so that's another thing that I learned a lot is adding to that is you need to be confident to make those mistakes. I remember at times where I felt like we made so many mistakes. It's like, what are we gonna do from now? How are we gonna move on? And the biggest thing is you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe in your product. And if you lose that faith, then those mistakes are just gonna bring you down. So you always have to be positive. You always have to have that positive thinking and believe in yourself that you're going to come out of this. And if you make all those mistakes and come out of it successful, you're so much more stronger. And that was the biggest thing that I learned. And going into it, when I was first starting there, I thought everything would be perfect, everything, all the processes would be set up, but that wasn't the case at all. Like you said, every 10 days we have to refocus. And
it was a lot of fun.
We'd go back to our desks and be like, so I just dropped everything I just did. And as a small company, you can do that, especially in the early stages, which is advantageous. But at the same time, there's a point where you just have to focus and start, accomplishing and executing things. And so, yeah, that focus is really important. Going through those shifts did help us a lot.
Good. Thanks, guys, for
There's
the
actually
comments.
one more thing I'd like to touch on. And this is something I learned about Kunal. He's very good at pushing his software development team. He has an annoying habit of selling things that don't exist yet.
So I started the company.
Even things, so he'd be out there selling all these like crazy video streaming features. He was selling cloud computing technology that didn't even exist. But in the end, coincidentally with the cloud computing stuff he was talking about, Amazon did end up developing it, so he was just a little lucky on that one. But within our team, it really helped us because we could never get comfortable. We did come out with some really solid products, some stuff that looked great, and it wouldn't be easy to stop there and just say, okay, this is great. Now let's just keep tweaking the UI, enhance stability and stuff. But Kunal really kept pushing us to go further. So I was lucky that I had Kunal to push me. Not everyone will have Kunal to push you, so you have to push yourself. So when you're going out and talking to people about the product you're working on, project here in philosophy, tell them what you have, but go a little bit further. Try to push yourself and imagine what's the next step. Talk about it like it's reality. If if someone invests in you, then you really better make it reality, and that might be the extra pushing you to deploy.
Thanks guys for the comment. And just on Neil's point, what I really learned is the ability to think 2 steps ahead in absolutely everything I do, professional and personal. It's very easy for us to think, okay, I'm going to do this, and then I'll see what happens. I'm going to kind of throw it out there. But train yourself to think 2 steps ahead. So I'm going to propose this, or I'm going to ask for this, and then let's see what comes back. Are people going to, how are they going to come back to us? So I'll give you a specific example. So I had a proposal out to one of our potential customers. We were asking for money. We were asking for $24,000 for the project, for what we wanted to do. I knew in my mind it was actually, it was a $20,000 project. And I was about to send the proposal for $20,000, but I changed it to $24,000. So I'm thinking 2 steps ahead. I sent it to them 2 days back and said, okay, we'll do it for $20,000. So by pitching for 24, I knew they were going to negotiate me down, and the 20,000, I said, okay, let's do it. So they're happy because they feel that they've negotiated down and got a good deal. Then I'm happy because I got what we needed to get. If I pitched 20, they would have come down to 15, I guarantee you that. And then I would have been in a tough position to make a hard decision. So that's one small example where thinking 2 steps ahead has really helped impact the decisions you're going to make now. When I was selling stuff we didn't have, I wasn't really thinking 2 steps ahead. Let the team take care of that. How many people here have ever come up with a good idea? Glad we're all so modest. How many people here have ever come up with a bad idea? How many people here have come up with more bad ideas than good ideas? Okay. If you look at the word good is a relative term, right? You're only good compared to something else. So to come up with a good idea, don't you have to come up with a bad idea? You can't come up with one idea and say it's a good idea. So what are you comparing it against? If you're comparing it against like air, comparing it against nothing, well then everything is, what's that? Other people's bad ideas. So I want to talk to you about the importance of coming up with bad ideas. It's really, really important. It's more important than coming up with good ideas. Right now we're getting ready to design our next big product. It's run basketball on the iPhone. And the first thing I said to the team, to the business guys, to the product management guys, was come up with 10 bad ideas. I want to see 10 bad ideas first. And they're like, no, we can't do that. We only come up with good ideas. I'm like, yeah, right. Come up with 10 bad ideas. And as I was explaining to them, and through doing this process a few times, we've come up with this 10-6-3-1 rule. You're going to come up with 10 bad ideas. You're going to take 6 of them. You're going to flesh them out. You're going to try 3 of them, and 1 of them is going to work. That's exactly how we started Polar. So the company is called Polar Mobile, but we started the company before we came up with the name. The way the company started was we came up with a lot of ideas. Probably came up with 12 or 15 ideas. All sorts of things. Pretty much all software oriented, but not all mobile oriented. And not all consumer stuff as well. There's some B2B stuff, some enterprise stuff, some online portals, mobile banking, all sorts of really bad ideas. And then out of this 12 or 15 ideas, I think we took about 4 or 5 of them and we started prototyping them and developing demos. And I talked to you about how we took our mobile magazine concept and pitched that to Canadian business. At the exact same time, I was pitching 4 bad ideas to other people as well. I didn't tell you guys that part. And that stuff, for 2 of the ideas, we actually did get customers. 2 of the bad ideas, they got customers, right? I was actually selling what we had, not beyond that. But we realized the customers were small and started thinking, okay, how big is that market? And that opportunity wasn't really there for us. And it's at that point we said, okay, this mobile magazine concept seems to get good feedback and traction. That's when we dropped everything else. And this is September 2007. And I said, we're just going to focus on this and make this successful. So that's an example where we, at a macro level, we came up with a lot of bad ideas for the company. And expect that's what you guys are going to do in the next 4 months for your projects, for your future endeavors, for your co-op terms, for your ventures that you'll start, is come up with bad ideas. And then only can you come up with the good ones. Now, there's a specific skill needed to recognize a good idea from a bad idea. None of us in this room really have that skill, and it doesn't come from us. It comes from people around you. It comes from people out there in the real world. That's what I've learned. Don't kid yourself by trying to come up and distinguish a good idea from a bad idea yourself. Get your customer to figure that out for you. Leverage somebody else's experience and expertise to help you figure out what's actually valuable and what's just interesting and cool. And that kind of goes back to the networking. Right? Unless you're networking without a purpose. So imagine this. So you're networking without a purpose. You meet tons of people. You're not really sure if they'll be useful to you or if you'll be useful to them, but that's okay because you're networking without a purpose. And then you go on and you come up with tons of bad ideas. And then you need people to vet these bad ideas by to see what's actually good. Well, all those people that you networked with and that you know and they like you or now you have a reason to email them and contact them. And you'll find them to be very, very helpful. So if you take a few concepts that I've mentioned, making mistakes, you need to make mistakes. We've made mistakes, big ones, small ones. We've also had lots of successes and wins. You need to come up with bad ideas, and you need to network to build your team, to build the mentors, to build people who are going to support you, to meet your future customers. And those are the type of things that you need to do now to invest in yourself, to allow you to really go on and do what you want to do. And I'll kind of end off by just sharing the good stuff of being an entrepreneur. It's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of stress. There's not much sleep. I slept so much over the holidays. I don't know how I slept that much, but I'm ready to go for the entire year now. The feeling when you get a customer, the feeling when you launch a product. These guys will tell you, we launched the Hockey News as a application mid-December. It's been a few months in the making. Today, like 4 weeks later, we're the #1 sports application in Canada, number 12 globally. This is for a hockey application. Over 50,000 users in a few weeks. But we're also making, money off of it. We have advertisers like Labatt and TELUS, people advertising on it. We have people calling us saying, we want to do that. And every day an email gets sent out to the whole team. It's actually 3 times a day now with how many new users we have. And we literally look forward to that email. So that the joy you get from your accomplishments and your successes is unbelievable. And I've worked for companies during co-op terms. I've worked with part of teams and extracurricular stuff, and all of that is helpful and is a way to invest in yourself. But working for yourself and building something successful with a team is the greatest feeling in the world. Just like I told you, I can't tell you what mistakes not to make. Can't really describe the feeling. You've just got to do it, and you've got to really experience it and live it for yourself. And with that, I wish all of you the best of luck, and I'm very excited to see what you accomplish. Thank you for your time, and happy to take questions. I'll take any questions except from these two guys.
So you started this business with a lot of your friends, right? Friends you'd worked with on Impact. What was the pros and cons of starting a company with friends?
So our founding team was 6 people. 2 of the other people I had been working with Impact for the past 3, 4, 5 years. But the other 3 I'd never worked with in my life.
How did you find it?
They were brought on by other people on the team, and just through other people that we've networked with. And had a few conversations and wanted to make sure we really get to know each other, but it was a bit of a risk. It was going out on a limb to work with people that I hadn't worked with before, but it's worked out great. Part of it is like showing people that you trust them and you're taking a bet on them. They return the feeling, the favor as well, and the feeling as well, and that they trust you. And we've been able to come together as a team and are very tight as a team. You guys know that, and see the environment. 20 people, like sometimes we feel like 50 people, but sometimes we feel like, a group of guys around a table. So the founding team was really important. But it was a mix of people I'd worked with before and people I hadn't worked with. But for the people I hadn't worked with, I definitely went out on a limb and trusted them, and it's worked well.
Other than student council, what kind of extracurricular activities were you involved in university?
In university, in my first year, so you guys heard me say spreading, don't spread yourself too thin, or go spread yourself very thin to learn from it. I did that exact same mistake in first year, University at Waterloo. I was part of FEDS, so I was the engineering counselor. I was part of the Entrepreneurs Association. I was doing intramurals with classmates. I was involved with some class rep stuff as well, some NSOC stuff. I probably had my hands in 6 or 7 different things. The one thing that really caught my interest and passion was the Entrepreneurs Association, and then from that came up with the concept, but also had the people around me to start Impact. I started that at the end of my first year. So after the end of my first year, I was focused on one thing, and that was Impact. And I highly encourage all of you to really focus during your time in university. Spend time on one activity or one extracurricular that you really want to make a dent in. And the ability to volunteer your time to help other people is so powerful, and to understand how to do that at this age, and we're all the same age, is something that'll stay with you the rest of your life.
Follow-up question to that. So after first year, you dropped all those extracurricular activities on Impact?
Yeah, I mean, it was a gradual drop off. It was kind of convenient in that the term ended or the commitment ended. So I didn't quit, or I didn't leave people hanging, or not fulfill any commitments I had made. But in terms of new commitments, all of my new energy was focused on Impact, and then started to really recruit a team and build that.
Being fully immersed in the world of mobile media, where do you see the future of this wave going? What's your prediction
For mobile?
Progressing years to come in mobile?
Yeah. So over the holidays, myself and I guess 3 or 4 other people, we each put together a small PowerPoint presentation for our predictions for 2009. And a year from now, we're going to pull those up and actually see what actually happened and what didn't happen. So one of my predictions is BlackBerry and iPhone are going to win. They're going to own the market for 2009 and a bit into 2010. The concept of app stores is really taking off. It's changing business models of mobile developers. So before you would launch a mobile service or any piece of software, you'd figure out how much does it cost to make, how many times can I sell it, and do some quick math, and that's how you have your selling price. Things are completely different because of the App Store concept. People aren't pricing their services based on making back the money they invested. People are pricing their services as, how do I get to the top, or how do I sell the most amount, or how do I get to the most amount of users? Which isn't always the most profitable way to do it, which also changes the dynamics for the old guys, the traditional guys, the big guys. And that's where we're trying to get an edge, is the big companies are really, really distracted right now. The economy doesn't seem to be doing too well. Still trying to figure out what that exactly means. I mean, this is the first recession that we've actually lived through and are noticing. So the online guys and the big guys are really, really distracted, which means there's more opportunities in mobile than ever before. Because the stuff that Google and Yahoo and MSN and AOL and ESPN and these guys would typically, you would expect them to do in mobile, they're going to take a lot longer to do it now, which creates holes in the market and a need to fill, many different needs. So those are my quick predictions on the next few years.
What about beyond that, 10 years, 20 years? Is that sort of vision at all?
So a year ago now is when I gave up my laptop. So I don't have a laptop. I've got a nice computer in the office, but I'm not in the office very much. So I do everything off of these. Like, more smartphones are sold than laptops. I think these are going to be much more powerful, and you'll start to do everything off of these. I'm not going to make crazy predictions like I think you expect me to make in terms of these, reading your brain or doing all those type of things.
Or even as mobile as a company, like where do you see it growing in years to come?
Yeah, I mean, our goal is to turn this into a media device, and the iPhone has really helped us. It's been a blessing in disguise, and that this is a media device that happens to make a phone call. Today, it's a phone that happens to take a picture. So that same analogy is what we're looking to accomplish, and that's our vision as a company, is making the phone, it's not going to be called a phone. I don't think it'll be called a phone. I think it'll be called something else. We tried to brainstorm ideas, we didn't come up with anything good.
Just a quick clarification. When you say media device, do you mean like content, like what you're doing now, or expanding beyond that?
Media in the broader sense. So content and publications is one slice of media, but media in the broader sense. I'm going to take Mo over there.
I have two, if you don't mind. The first one was, you have a lot of like eccentric or cool ideas, like the whole PowerPoint presentation in 2009, like come up with those 10 worst ideas. Where do you come up with those?
I only shared with you the good stuff. I come up with lots of bad ideas too. The team definitely sees the bad ideas that I come up with, and only then I realize the bad ideas. I mean, part of it is just immersing yourself into it. When you immerse yourself into it, you're just constantly thinking about it. And you don't need to be at the office or in front of a computer to think about it. I mean, I've got a place downtown Toronto, a few blocks from the office. I don't have internet at my place. I just got a TV a few months ago. So like when I'm outside of the office, I'm still thinking about work and coming up with ideas. But I don't need to be in front of a computer. I don't need to be on the internet. I don't need to be on email. I don't need to be talking to somebody. So force yourself to not be as connected sometimes during the day, regularly, and that's where you can think about things. Yeah. You have a second question, or? Sure.
Yeah, you graduated software engineering. How much development do you do yourself? Do you want to say that?
So I've offered many, many times to the team to help write code. They don't let me anywhere close to anything, so I'll leave it at that.
Just wondering, how do you stay organized and keep on top of your priorities with so many responsibilities?
How many people here make to-do lists? Okay, I didn't raise my hand, and here's why. How many people here feel like you always have tons of stuff to do, right? You always have tons of stuff to do, and you have to make these lists to keep yourself organized and prioritize and all that stuff. I was definitely like that in running Impact, right? A large team, conferences, competitions, school, class, exams, co-op interviews, all that stuff happening at once. I don't believe in to-do lists at all, and here's why. As it is, we already have so much work to do. Isn't it a good thing if you forget to do some of it? You'll have less work to do. That's part of it. But the other part of it is, if it's really important, you don't need to write it down. If it's really important, you're going to remember it. And if it's really important, that means it's top priority. So that's what I'd force you out to challenge, because that means you're really immersed into it. It's going to force you to really understand what's important, because then you're relying on yourself and how you feel. And then you're training yourself to always keep at the top of your mind what's most important for me or for my team or for the business or whatever it is. That's why I don't make lists. I mean, I have a task list in the Outlook thing. I haven't looked at it in months. Because what's really important stays at the top of your mind, and that's what you end up doing. And don't worry about the other stuff, because you'll have less work to do if you forget about it, and it probably wasn't important if you forgot about it.
So how do you meet your first sales representative?
Our first customer?
Yeah.
It was through a relationship and a network that I had through Impact. So through Impact, I had met somebody who worked for Canadian Business. And then I met with them. I really just talked to them for like 10 minutes and showed them the, at the time, very pretty prototype. Looking back, very ugly prototype. They smiled politely and they said, "That's an interesting idea, it's cool. How are you going to charge for it?" I'm like, I don't know. Is it going to cost us anything? I don't know. How do we get the content? I don't know. So in talking to somebody, that's when I realized what I needed to figure out. So I met with that person, right back with the team, I had to figure out exactly how do you get content into here? How do we charge for it? How much does it cost us? Do we host it? Do they host it? So we have to answer these questions. And then I went back, and then we had more meetings and more meetings and more meetings. And then they really helped us understand what we need. They helped us form the business without realizing it. And they also helped fund the business without realizing too by being our first customer. I cold call probably 20, 30 people a week now. That's a big chunk of my day. Like, I would go into the office pretty early in the morning and do a bit of research and then send out emails and make some calls every day.
I was thinking for my next co-op term, like if I get a project over here, if I can pursue that in the co-op term, get meetings for that. I think that's a pretty cool idea.
I took my last co-op term off. So in November 2007, when I started Polar and did all this stuff, I wasn't in school. I had 5 co-op terms under the belt, and I did it. And that's another sign in terms of how you focus and immerse yourself into something, is you're sacrificing other opportunities. So I think it's a great idea. I think you want to make sure that you're doing it at the right time in your Waterloo career. I think it's great to do it near the end, because you're kind of sick of co-op by that time anyways. You're sick of school, and you just want to get out. So it's a good time to rest and relax, but also focus on something. Because for us, like the day after I wrote my last exam, I was in New York pitching to customers. And this past Christmas is actually the first break that we've had since writing our exams. So I think it's a good idea. I just caution you to make sure you do it at the right time in your career. Because from what I understand, you can only do it once. Take 1 co-op term off, at least for engineering students.
At the end of your first year, you said you were not going to be the best software engineer. Did you consider switching programs at that point?
I did. Yeah, I did. So a personal pet peeve of mine is I really dislike doing administration and logistics type work. And at the time, I was really annoyed with having to go talk to people and fill out forms and do all this stuff. Like the idea of doing that and no guarantee I'm going to be in a program that I like better didn't appeal to me. But what kept me in software engineering was 2 things. The idea of engineering, which was valuable in terms of the problem solving, the skill set basically engineering taught me. But the other part that was valuable was the people that I was around. The people I was around were probably the smartest people on campus at the time. And I'm like, I can learn stuff from these people. And once again, networking without a purpose is just good, smart people. I want to be around these people. So that's what kept me into it. It was definitely a struggle at times during engineering, but you guys know all about that.
How did you have courage, I would say, to start up a software company knowing that your software skills weren't at its best?
Who says my software skills aren't good? I'm joking. My software skills aren't very good at all. I'll be the first to admit that. The people around me, I was very confident and I trusted the people around me. The people on the team, the founding team, they had worked at Microsoft and Amazon and IBM and RIM and different places. But regardless of that, I knew we were all pretty smart people and would be able to figure it out. So just trust the people around me.
So you mentioned that you made a lot of mistakes, and you mentioned that when you pitched your first idea, they asked a few questions you didn't know the answers to. So how did you recover kind of gracefully from these mistakes and the whole process to this? Or did you complete
At the specific time, I just smiled. Learning how to smile and be nice and friendly does wonders. Professionally and personally, but we're not going to get into that. So at the time, just smiled, and by going in there young and being very transparent, saying this is a new concept, it's a few of us, we want to get your input and feedback. I'm not going in there saying, I want you to pay us money for this. I'm saying, what do you think of this? And what would you change, and what do we need to think about? So asking it in the right way. A lot of my cold calls now, actually, probably a third of them, are asking people for feedback. Knowing that I want to get a sense of what they like and what they don't like, so I can pitch them something, if it makes sense, that we have, that they would value.
Let's go one more question.
Go ahead.
How is Kunal Gupta doing currently financially? I mean, I'm sure a lot of your customers are, I'm not sure, because now it's like financial crisis. How do they view putting money into developing the technology and research?
So over the fall term, we invested a lot the guys will tell you, like I was out of the office probably 80% of the time, just constantly selling and hitting the road, going to New York, Toronto, Waterloo, Montreal, Ottawa, like all over the place, California, Boston, like I was everywhere. There's way too many places selling. Now, and even just this past week, we've started to benefit from all that effort put into the fall. Like we're getting customers saying yes and signing deals with us now. So I guess we invested a lot in sales, and sales doesn't happen in one meeting. That's what I've learned. It doesn't happen in 2. Sometimes it doesn't happen in 10. It takes 3, 4, or 5 months to sell a product. So the people we first started talking to a while ago are now starting to say yes, which is very encouraging. And we're starting to bring on some really big customers, and we're going to leverage that to get new customers. So right now we're doing great. We're actually probably in the best financial situation we've been since the history of starting the company. We're making revenue, and the numbers keep going up every day, literally, which is it's encouraging, and it's motivation to keep pushing even harder.
Last question, sorry.
All right, one more.
All right. What's the administrative structure of the company? Is it publicly owned or just individual investors?
Would you like to buy some shares? We can talk about it's privately owned. Myself and the 5 other founders own the company. We had angels, so they purchased a piece of the company, and that provided us funding to grow the company. And we have an option plan and pool where everybody joining the company, all the employees, can take part in that as well. So my philosophy and our philosophy as founders, everybody in the company is an owner in that sense. And we have the proper governance structure in place. And we learned all this by talking to lawyers and advisors. I didn't come up with it on my own, believe me.
Okay, we're going to have to cut you off, and hopefully you can hang around for a few minutes afterwards. But one thing I forgot to mention when I introduced Kunal is I met Kunal probably about 2 years ago. And starting about 1.5 years ago, he and his right-hand man, Gaurav Jain, they were really influential in the development of Velocity. When I came up with the idea, I really realized that I needed to get input from students like Kunal, who would be, if he was still in school, the ideal Velocity resident. So he was very, very helpful in making Velocity what it is today. So I want to thank him for coming today to speak, but also for what he's done to help Velocity come to life as well. So Kunal, thank you.
Good.